Good morning, everyone. I am going to give it just a minute and I will get started. I just have some fire trucks going by and they're going to be really loud for a minute, so. All right. I wanted to get started today with a tangle I like a lot. It's called E-mingle. It's funny because as I was planning for this class, I would usually go back through all of my old tiles and I kind of take a look and see what I've done and what I have. And I realized that as much as I like it, I don't use it in my work nearly as much as I might normally with some of my other patterns. So this should be a lot of fun. So I'm going to give this a second to get some people joining us, and then we will get started. I have a new camera set up, and it's weird because I've always been able to just kind of watch what I was doing on my screen, and I don't have that option quite as much. So it's a little hard for me to tell when things are straight. Okay, so if anything goes wonky or I go off the page or something, kind of give me a shout out because I can see comments. I have my iPad up so that I can see. So first off, I like to show you some of the patterns that I have that I've done, or some of the tiles that I've done already. And then I will demo how to draw the basic pattern, and then I will do a couple variations. If you are new to my little tangulation experience here that I have going on Saturdays, I am going to ask everybody to bear with me just a little bit this morning. I am still a little scattered. I didn't get a lot of sleep this weekend. I say that on Saturday morning. I haven't gotten a lot of sleep in the last couple days, so I am a little off, but that's okay. It's fine. I'm having a lot of tea. I should be nice and caffeinated here very shortly. All right, so this one, this is E-mingle, which is, I always think of it almost like printoms, like a square printoms, actually, without a sparkle. So I like to use it as a string, okay? You can see I have a variant of floors in here, and then I have hurry, which I did a couple weeks ago. But right here, I just used this to divide my tile up into a couple different sections, which is a fun way to use this pattern. Here, I've done it in a really simple version. It's really just a couple E-mingles that are stacked on top of each other with some heavy shading. So they kind of look like they're really kind of popping out a nice 3D effect. And, you know, it's nice to see how those look when they're done differently, right? You know, you do different sizes, different pen weights. You can really change things up a whole lot with only just a few little changes. And then I couldn't decide which one I wanted to show you, so I did both. Here's another one where once again I drew it big and I kind of stacked them. But I like this one a lot because all I did was place a little aura on one side. And I think this, for some reason, this makes me think of library books. I don't know, I like books. But just the way that it's stacked together, that little variation gives it a lot more pop. Okay, and then this one is, once again, it's about the same size as the one I used for the string, but in this one I started to use it as a border and decided that I didn't want it to be terribly busy. So I only used it as corners. So like a corner border. And then if you look in here, I've actually done E-mingle in a non-standard square shape. So these are more like little house shapes, like little rhombuses. So the pattern, while traditionally drawn in a square or a rectangle, doesn't have to always be drawn that way. All right, so with that said, I am going to set that off to the side and grab some something to get started. I'm going to start with my dots, 1 dot in each corner, adding in my border, still working in pencil here. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw E-mingle in the traditional or the standard way, which is usually the way that we learn a pattern first, and then you can kind of go from there. But one of the purposes in me doing these little lives is because I find that so often we get stuck in a rut where we really keep coming back to drawing the pattern the same way over and over and over again, and maybe we don't love it that way, or maybe we're bored with it, or maybe it just doesn't fit in where we're trying to work. So there's no reason to lock ourselves into something that, you know, puts us in a little box. So the first thing I'm going to do with this, right, is I'm going to draw a line right across my tile, and I kind of curve it. I don't love grid patterns. I'm going to be honest. They are not my go-to. They are not my favorite. It doesn't mean I don't use them from time to time, but they're never going to be my go-to. That's never going to be the pattern that I reach for in my little, tangle box. So I almost always either curve my line a little bit or make a wonky grid. But some patterns really are meant to be put in a grid, at least for the start. So I'm adding kind of big auras here to make my grid. I'm going to turn my tile. Actually, I'm going to turn it this way. And I'm going to draw another, once again, slightly curved. So that I have a grid. And it's a little wonky. I may have to change pens here. I'm still on a pen murdering spree, apparently. I have been hard on my pens lately. All right, let's see if this one is a little better. Okay. So once you have a grid, right, E-mingle is a fairly simple pattern to do. What we're going to do is we are going to draw a line up, and if you've got a grid in there, it's nice because you can just kind of do almost an inner aura. I started in the center, but really you could have started anywhere. Bear with me. I am going to make a little more room so I don't put my hand in the way as I draw. Okay, so you're making this square shape, and I'm going to come over, and I'm not going to close it all the way. I'm then going to go inside. So I'm creating a spiral that's squared off. Okay. And then I'm going to repeat that in all of my little boxes. Straight lines are not me. I can do them and I can draw them, but they rarely are perfectly precise. They are always a little wonky, especially in the morning. I find that how tired you are, how much caffeine you've had, all of those things contribute to the way that your line work is, right? I also am a huge fan of not worrying so much about the precision of my lines and more about my own personal artistic voice, I guess, right? So when I tangle, my tangling looks like my tangling. That's like your handwriting, right? Everybody's is a little different. Everything kind of has your own little wobbles and quirks to it. If I wanted to, I could make these much more precise. But that's not really the look I'm going for here with my wonky grid and my imperfect lines, right? And I'm not making sure that they all have exactly the same number of rows. I'm kind of keeping it similar. I am starting in the same spot in each box though. I think that adds a nice uniform look to it, and mixing it up will actually change the look of your pattern completely, which can be kind of fun. That's another way to kind of approach it. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to fill up this whole tile with this pattern right now. I will come back and I'll finish it off later to add to your little cheat sheet that I'll post later this afternoon. But I think that it's not the best use of our time this morning for me to fill this all up. I'll set that off to the side. I want to show you some other fun ways to do this. So again, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to add my dots, right? I am going to go in and I'm going to add a hollow bob pattern to this tile. Okay. So I'm going to add in some of these ribbons or boards or little roads, however you choose to think of hollow bob, right? Because by doing that, I'm going to have a couple different ways. It'll give me the opportunity to kind of show you a couple different ways to fill this in. I love using E-mingle as a fill-in, okay? All right, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 to work with there, right? Let's see here. So I'm going to go in this first one and I am going to just kind of box this off a little bit, right? So that I have some squares. And you don't have to draw this in. I just find it easier if I kind of break it up so that everything's about the same size. I may have lost you there. Nope, I think I'm good. If it seems silly to say if you can't see me, say something, but I think we're all right. Okay. So I have my So I have these boxes, these first ones, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to add my E-mingle in each one of these. My little square spirally. Okay, so I'm kind of using it as a fill pattern. Okay. Just following along with my lines. Taking a little bit of a walk there. I always think of this kind of like a little labyrinth, right? Like a little maze. Zipping around my little square. Or like when I'm downtown and I'm driving around and all the streets are one-way streets and I have to go in circles around the block. So you can't see the other parts of this, so just by adding these lines, it looks like it has finished. Now this one over here, I have, I just really have the corner, right? So right here, I like to kind of imagine what I'm drawing. So I put a little mark there where I would start, and then my pen would have come up here, would have come over, and then it would have come down here, and it would have come back, and then up. So I'll pick up my pen, and I'm just kind of doing it without actually leaving any ink where my border is, right? Okay, so there is my first little ribbon. I'm gonna leave that one just as it is. So that's kind of like your traditional, your standard E-mingle. I'm gonna move on to this second one, the second ribbon, and I am going to once again break it up in these little boxes. They're not going to be, you know, the same size this time. They're going to, you know, kind of just be a little smaller than these. My ribbon is smaller, plus I think that it's fun when you're doing something that's either a mono or a duo tangle to have some variations. So what I'm going to do with this one, right, I'm going to once again put in my E-mingle,